Hey everybody, welcome back to the second video on how to use NitroNet. In this tutorial, we're going to start to learn how to actually receive information from the server or the client and how to know when a client connects to the server. And it's all very, very easy. It's very easily done. One of the objectives that I had in my mind when developing NitroNet was to be very simple to use. CryoNet, which is another library that I spoke of in the earlier video, was a very simple networking server and client relation to set up and use, but I wanted to make it easier to use, more secure, more dynamic, and those are just some things that CryoNet didn't offer. That was one of the big complaints of it. So let's get started into this. Now, one of the things that the server and the client objects offer is the option to set a listener to them. So what the listener does is it gives you three methods that tell you when a client is connected, disconnected, and when a packet was received from a connection. So that can be done, it's done on both the server and the client. So we're going to be doing it for each just to see how they can communicate. So to get started, we're going to start in the server and we're going to create a new class called Server Listener. And you don't want to have a main in this one like we did in the other ones, but create that new class there. And then we're going to implement the interface called SocketListener. And this will give us those three methods that I spoke about. And I imported that. You can press Control Shift and O, or you can put your mouse over and click on Import. And then after that, it's going to give you the three methods. So put your mouse over Server Listener and click Add Unimplemented Methods. So from here, it's going to give you those methods, and you're going to want to set the variables to something other than arg0, arg1, etc. So each one's pretty explanatory. When a new connection connects to the server, it's going to call this method here. When it disconnects, it's going to call this method here. When it sends a packet, it's going to call this method here. It's all very explanatory, and you can fill in the methods as you need to. Now, for us, we're just going to start off by printing a simple system.print message. So we're going to say client connected. And the connection object will give you different things of information. So you can get the ID, get the amount of packets lost, get the UDP port that they're connected to. You can get their actual socket, whether or not they're connected, different methods, and also methods to send information back to them. Now we'll get to that in a second. But right now I'm just going to print out client as connected. And then I'm going to copy and paste this into client disconnected, and I'm just going to put disconnected here. So that's very simple to do. Now, if we actually start the server, I never closed these from last time. If we start the server and then we start the client, you'll see on the server side that it'll print out. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I didn't actually tell you how to set the listener to the server. So before you can actually start receiving information, you have to set the listener to the server. So that's done by using the method setListener. So you can do server and then .setListener. And then you're going to set in an instance of the server listener. So we're going to do new server listener. And now if you run the server and then you run the client, one second, you'll see client has connected. And then on the server side, you'll see client has connected as well. So you'll see that it called the method in the server listener right here, and it printed that out for you to see. Now if we disconnect the client, and we exit out of that, we'll see client is disconnected. So from there, you can do whatever you would want with the client or with the connection that has disconnected or connected in your application. So now let's send some information to the client once it connects. So what we're going to do is we're going to do con.send, and now from here we have a bunch of different methods to use. We have 6 different methods to send information over TCP and UDP. When I was developing this, like I said, I wanted to be very dynamic and easy to use. So you can send things over TCP and UDP using just one method without having to do anything too crazy. So we're actually going to go to send TCP to start. It really doesn't matter if you send it with TCP or UDP, it's going to get there for the most part. We'll talk about UDP later for those of you that don't know about it. But first, we're just going to send a string over to the client. So we're going to say, thanks for connecting using NitroNet. You can type in whatever you want there. Now, if we run the server, if we restart the server and we run it, so we'll run that first. Oops, ran the client by accident. So if you run the server first and then we run the client, you'll see the client is connected on the, or it'll say client connected on the client side, and it'll say client connected on the server side, but it didn't actually print out our message that we sent. And this is because we didn't create an actual socket listener for the client. So we're actually going to go and do that now. So go to the package client and create a new class called ConnectionListener. And this is going to be no different from the server listener. So we're going to do implement socket listener. And I'm going to import that really quick and then add the unimplemented methods. And sometimes this happens in Eclipse where it doesn't let you do it. So just you can exit out of it, reopen it, and then put your mouse over and it'll say it. And now let's just change these to con. If you implement the source into the jar, it will make those variables say what they're supposed to say, not arg1, arg0, etc. So we're just going to leave the blank. We're going to leave these blank. This will be called when you connect to the server here, and also when you disconnect from the server, or when the server disconnects from you, vice versa, it doesn't matter. But when a packet's received from the server, we want to see what it is. So all we're really going to do is we're just going to print out the object. So we're going to do system.out.println object. And you'll see some interesting things happen here. What we're going to do is we're going to restart the server and the client. And before we actually run it, we're going to have to go back to the client starter. And before it connects, just set the listener as well. So we're going to do client.set listener. And we're just going to do new client listener, just like we did for the server listener. So now if we run the server first, and then we run the client, you will see a few things happen here. So first the server has started. And the client is connected. That's from the server side. Now I'm going to stop the client really quickly, just so that it stops popping up with some stuff. And you'll see client is disconnected. So the first thing we see is test alive ping. Thanks for connecting to NitroNet. Client connected, test alive ping, etc., etc. Now you might be wondering why client connected came after the first two packets here. The reason that happened is because after we connected, the server instantly sent a packet back to us with the thanks for connecting using NitroNet string. Now, what we did was we did if client is connected. So the server actually sent back that information before it reached this portion. That's why you see this being printed out after everything else. Now, if we would put it into the client listener on the client connected portion, that would be printed before these two. But that really doesn't matter. So what you can see is you'll see test alive ping. What test alive ping is it's a packet that's sent from the server every 5,000 seconds by default to see if the client's still connected. Now what happens if, say now for example, how does the server know when the client isn't connected? Well, it knows when one of these test alive pings doesn't actually reach the client. When that happens, it means that the client is disconnected from the server and the server will disconnect them. That's why you see client is disconnected here. So that's why you're seeing test live ping over and over again. And it printed out thanks for connecting using NitroNet because we sent over that object, that string object, to the actual to the client itself, and it printed it out right here when it received it. So that's how you send and receive information from the server to the client. Now say that we want to send some information back to the server. So how about when we first connect, we'll do con.send UDP. We connected. So it's really no different on the server and the client side to send information back to it. There's no difference between those two. Everything you do on the server side will be identical on the client side. That's one of the things that I wanted to make on both the server and client side to make it easy to use, easy to implement, and not too confusing to understand. So now if we would run it, you'll see a bunch of things getting printed out. So we're going to restart everything. Start the server first, and then the client. So we'll see client connected, test alive ping. Thanks for connecting using NitroNet. That was from the server side. Now on the server start, you'll see server has started, client is connected, but because we didn't print anything out in the receive method, it didn't print it out. So let's just put that into there, print the line of the object. And if we actually we can leave the server running. If we just restart the, actually no, we need to restart the server, I'm sorry. If we restart both of them, if we restart the server first and then the client, you'll see the server print out we connected. So like I said, sending information over to the server and the client is very easy. Very easy to do. It's only one line to do it, and it only gets easier as we go into future development and get more complicated, I guess you could say, and more in depth on how NitroNet works. So thanks for watching, guys. In the next tutorial, we'll figure out how to send custom objects in over to the server and the client, so more than just strings. So stick along for the next video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks.